Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we got to look at the Loyang for you. There's Ding Dewey on the screen. We got our Sims Bay build we've been running on all the destroyers. Note, this is the only destroyer build currently in the game where you do not have access to Twist and Track. I mean, if you run generics or cruisers or battleship commanders on your destroyers, you're not going to have it on those builds either. But this is the only destroyer in the game that doesn't have access to Twist and Track. So that's inherently a disadvantage. I'm just going to be going over the ship today. We covered the Friesland yesterday, and then my plan in the next day or two following today, we're going to do more of a deeper dive and kind of really go into the nitty gritty on the decision making process. Which ship do you want to get? So here we got Sleeping Giant domination mode game. We are on the far west spawn. A lot of players are going to go all the way to the far western side of the island and try and approach A from that direction. I would never recommend doing that. I think that's a very poor play on our version of the game. When this is a 15-minute game, taking yourselves out of the crucial first 20, 25%, 30% of the match just to get into a position where you cannot see, you cannot shoot, I think that's disastrous, especially as a destroyer. So I always going to play pretty much the gap in between A and B. We're going to read the situation. Can I get in A safely? Can I get in B safely? Want to be spotting, though, because our team does need to know the deployment. If we can ascertain that they're going heavily to the west, around that side of A, then we can pretty much pressure B, 6-on-3, take that very quickly, and then by the time they're getting into A, we can turn around and fight them back that way, or proceed to the east. So any time one team abandons the middle of the board to go west, and if the other team responds appropriately, that's a huge opportunity. Pushing into position here, we do have a Helena spotted over here, coming this direction. Again, we're seeing are these guys going to the west or the mid. Behind him, looks like another cruiser battleship. So we got some ship coming in here, and this is important because they're committing, basically a presumed 6 ships to this. And you can see our ships. We got one directly to the north of me going along that long island. He can't do anything, can't see anything. The guy directly north of A is going to have a hard time countering these guys. So red, assuming they're actually all committed to the mid, and of course they are, they're actually in control at this point in time. So this is a very crucial deployment. But we're taking a very aggressive position here, and see how close we are to these two cruisers. 6.9, 7.4, whatever. Very close, very dangerous. We need to be very wary of this, making this play here. So we got a little bit of a torp strike off on the Algerie. We're contesting the cap. We need to be getting out of here, though. Udachi pops around, spots us. Now, immediately I should deploy the smoke and use the sonar. What's going on with the sonar? Just slightly less powerful than the German cruisers. We're talking Hipper sonar. I think that one goes, what is it, 5.6, I believe. It's either 5.8 or 5.6 for surface ship detection. Loyang 5.4 and a 3.8 kilometer on the torpedo detection. So extremely powerful sonar here. I believe it's the most powerful sonar for a destroyer. Yeah, even better than some of these German ones. So very powerful sonar here, and this is going to be one of the main selling points of the ship. Basically, you have the ultimate smoke sonar combination here, and we're testing out the AP. You can see the results. But that's very, very powerful. Basically, you have the advantage over every other destroyer, minus the Orkan, who's got the actual radar on there. But we can keep these ships lit for long periods of time. And here we're backing up and trying to deal with the Udachi. He's pushing into an active sonar, which is never really advisable. Pushing into a sonar ship is already questionable, but you never know. The sonar could be on cooldown. But when it's active, and you know it's active, he probably thought that was a radar from earlier, because maybe he didn't know that the Loyang had the sonar, would be my guess. Or he was not scared of it. Either way, we dominated that fight there, and that is one of the main selling points of the ship. Leon pushing in very aggressively here. Got him a little bit too close. I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of missed him there. And I actually missed the fact that the second launcher was ready to go there. We were just barely on the edge of the shaded region where the front launcher one to actually hit. So I thought maybe my torps got staggered. They got knocked out on the reload or whatever. Would have liked to have had a really tight spread there. Maybe get him with 2 or 3 torps. Hopefully, he does squeeze through that. But we need to get the heck away from here. Anytime these ships get this close to you, you're in trouble. Now, we do have American smoke on this Loyang like we did on the Friesland here. Great consumables on both of these ships. But American smoke in this one, so long duration, great deployment time, all that. But still, when these ships are pushing into you that closely, very dangerous. But because of me and the other destroyer playing effectively together and having pretty good support from the majority of the other team, you can see the two ships we questioned earlier still probably not in the best firing positions. But nonetheless, we do destroy basically a huge portion of the Navy. You can see dominating the game at this point in time. Caps, even though, and you know my philosophy here, if they manage to take 1, 2, 3 ships back, all of a sudden the game's roughly tied again. So let's focus on the caps first and foremost. Go ahead, get on the cap, make sure we get these points coming in the background. They're not defeated yet. They still have the majority of the fleet. But with the North Carolina about to go down there, not going to be the case for much longer. They do have a Prince Eugene over there now. That ship could be, it's always dangerous to us, but does it have the German cruiser sonar on there? Or does it have the reload boost? Now, if you're going to play the ship to its, max potential, I would always recommend the sonar. I think that's better than the reload booster, but as a way to differentiate itself from the Hipper, a lot of people, myself included, just keep the reload boost on there. So you never really know going into a fight with that ship, but we're going to be trying to read this situation as best we can and try and determine what consumable we've got. You can see they're actually taking our home cap there on the west. So again, it looks promising in terms of map control, in terms of numbers of ships, but if you've played this game as much as I have, you're probably scarred from the multitude of throws that your team has conjured out of thin air at times, seemingly. Jervis pops in here, and they do still have 2 destroyers. Now, if you noticed when we looked at the roster earlier, it's a Jervis and an Icarus, a failed platoon. And you can see him actually pop up there. I missed him as we're sweeping there, but he is available there in the gap. And don't ever play the not the same tier as your division mates. Just don't ever do it. You can say, okay, legendary tier, you're going to be playing with legendaries and tier 7s anyways. Maybe in that case, it wouldn't make me as mad, but in general, this is just a massive down. It's a disadvantage for the red team that they didn't need just because you don't care. I don't really like that. But nonetheless, we're going to proceed to kill both these guys. Loyang, once again, we'll be comparing these ships with the Friesland. Much more in depth here coming up shortly, but this one isn't as big of a gun threat compared to the Fletcher, which the turret situation, guns, reload time, damage, all that, very similar, but the Fletcher does have an extra turret. We only have 4 on this one, but, this one does have about 100 more HP and damage here. Launching those torps on the gap there in between us and the Eugene, that's going to allow us to get out of here, kill the Icarus, and then escape, because if he pushes forward, he's going to hit the torps. If he waits till the torps go by, then we got time to escape. Better continue covering the stats here. Gun-wise, pretty good performance. Torpedoes, you have 2 options. You have short-range screamers, 6.7 kilometers. That's what we got here. 72 knots in the water. Or longer range, more American-esque. 9.2 range, 59 knots in the water. Comparable reaction time. The longer, slower, ponderous torps have about a half second shorter reaction time. So slight edge there. Something to consider, but not that massive of a difference. Speed-wise, great. 39.1. Nimble in the water. 570 turn circle is very nice. It's got that tight American destroyer feel. Rudder shift 2.6. We're flopping around like a fish out there. Sea detection 5.4. Not outstanding. So it's tied with the Fletcher. So it's comparable to that. But overall, we talked about the smoke. We talked about the outstanding sonar. Great consumables on the ship. Good firepower. I got the torp set up for a little bit riskier in terms of their deployment, but very dangerous. And the other differences between the two, about 5,000 in damage, more for the screamers. And the reload time of the longer range torps is about 10, it's actually 11 seconds shorter. So there's a couple more key differences between the torps. Both viable. The longer range one's probably going to be the safer option for most players. That's the one I would recommend. But both effective torps nonetheless. And you can kind of see in this game the capabilities of the ship. So going into it, before we got into the pilot seat of these ships, I was just expecting to like the Friesland way more. But as I'm going to talk about tomorrow, the decision is very, very tight between the two. Both fantastic destroyers. So definitely don't skip this campaign unless you never play destroyers. That's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Questions, comments, leave them below. Enter your name, your screen name, and your system for a chance to win some crates. Peace.